quest. It's a quest for fun.
Well, The Rock says, why don't we just cut right to the chase?
Okay, now he wants to get together. Well, he wants to talk.
I want you to do me a favor. I want you to tell all your friends about me.
It's showtime, folks!
What are you?
I'm...
Greetings and salutations, everyone. My name is Ryan of Neuroculture. Welcome to another episode of And I Quote, the live weekly show where we bring in a special guest. We ask them a few questions and we find out what projects they have coming up in the very near future. Joining us this week is comic book writer Conner Bartel. Conner, how are you, good sir? Oh, I'm sorry. I'm having a little bit of trouble hearing you there, Conner.
I'm doing good. How are you? Sorry, I fat thumbed the mute button.
That's okay. That's okay. So how are you doing today?
I'm doing all right. How about you?
Doing all right. Thank you so much for being with us. And also, if anyone has any questions for our guest Conner today, you're more than welcome to leave them in the comments section. We're going to be monitoring that as we go throughout the show today. So we thank you for being with us, Conner, as well as the audience members. Now, to kick things off here, Conner, how were you introduced to the world of comics?
Well, I've always liked. I used to watch all the Marvel superhero cartoons when I was a kid, and so my mom, she lived in New York, and she started. She would get the Amazing Spider-Man comics, the original ones, in the newspaper, like these like bad reprint, like with newspaper paper and stuff, and so she would collect those over the course of the year, and then when I would visit her in the summer, I'd have a big fat stack of Spider-Man comics, and that's kind of how my collection started. Technically, my first comic was a Predator comic that I was way too young for.
Wow, man. It's kicking off with the immortal lines, if it bleeds, we can kill it.
Yeah. I don't even remember which comic it was. I just remember the main guy just comes back to his platoon with Predator's head in his hand at the very end. That's like the vivid memory I have of it.
Oh my goodness gracious. Now, what would you say were some of your favorite comic book writers or artists growing up?
Well, I like Brian K. Vaughan a lot now. But growing up, I didn't really get him until I was older. So I probably I was just like I said, I like the original Amazing Spider-Man comics. So I like like Steve Ditko, of course, and then as I got older, I started reading more and doing John Romita Sr. I started getting into like the serialized storytelling of comics with Ultimate Spider-Man. So Brian Michael Bendis wrote like an amazing, teenage story there, and man, was it Mark Bagley originally drew that back then? He's like super expressive with his faces and with lots of details in the face. So I really like that a lot. But now I gravitate more towards like black and white comics. So I really like ElfQuest and The Walking Dead. And sorry, my phone is being weird.
That's okay. Yeah.
Everything's over StreamYard and Zoom nowadays, and I'm still not used to it.
Oh, all right. Well, with more practice, you know what they say, practice makes perfect. So
yeah,
you always keep rolling with that. So you mentioned Walking Dead, some Amazing Spider-Man, other heroes thrown into the mix. So that leads me into my next question. What would you say were some of your favorite comic book movies or TV series growing up, or perhaps some of your favorites that are now?
Well, I grew up on Spawn, that movie. I didn't even know that was considered bad until I grew up and started getting on the internet, and everyone was talking shit about my favorite movie. But I've been like, I grew up at the perfect age to be like right in the thick of superhero movie renaissance, that started off with Spider-Man and X-Men, and I'd say up until Ant-Man and the Wasp, I saw every MCU movie opening night in theaters. I'm sorry, except for the ones before the first Avengers movie, because I grew up in like a rural town with no theater.
Oh.
But I begged my stepmom to drive me to town to see Avengers, to see Thor actually, and she thought Thor was such a hunk that she would love to take me to see Avengers, and then ever since then I just started seeing them all.
Oh man, good marathon, good a little bit of binge watching there. And fun fact, the first Thor movie, I should say, turns 10 years young this year.
Oh wow.
Yeah. It's going to be 10 years since the first Thor came out in 2011. We're in 2021. So on May the 6th, which is when the original Thor came out, it'll be 10 years young. So feel free to pop on your Blu-ray or your streaming service and get yourself a little 10-year anniversary party.
This is going to sound kind of stupid, but I know that Iron Man came out in 2008.
Yes.
And Avengers came out in 2012.
Yep.
And so because of that, I always gauge how old I think things are based off that standard, right? So I'm like, man, was that before or after I saw Avengers for the first time? Oh, okay, so that was before 2012 then. Like, that's kind of like how I like try and remember how old things are. That's how important the Avengers movie was to me when I was growing up.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, the first Avengers movie from 2012 was a history-making moment, not just in filmmaking, but for moviegoers around the world. It's one of those memories they're never going to forget.
Yeah.
So that's very true.
It was awesome because I really liked the original Incredible Hulk show.
Oh, Bill Bixby, Lou Ferrigno.
Yeah, and like Thor had I don't know if you know or ever saw it, but Thor had like a guest appearance in that show, and like that was kind of my introduction to Thor, and then I started checking out the Mighty Thor comics, and so and then when Avengers came out and I saw like the little rivalry between Thor and Hulk, like it was such a fun moment to go to just think about where I was watching it when I was a kid, versus like where it was then.
There you go. Did you know that the character of Thor made an appearance in the 80s film directed by Chris Columbus, who also directed the Home Alone movies Adventures in Babysitting with Elizabeth Shue? Thor made an appearance in that film, and it was played by Vincent D'Onofrio, who later on went on to play Wilson Fisk, the Kingpin on Netflix's Daredevil. Yeah.
I didn't know about that, but yeah, I know Vincent D'Onofrio. But that's crazy. Like, so was he like the Marvel version of Thor? Or?
He basically was the reason he played was portrayed as that character is because the young girl in Adventures of Babysitting, the little girl that Elizabeth Shue is babysitting, has a huge love of the character of Thor. Her room is decorated in all things Thor, so she loves the character. So when she sees this mechanic at the shop that helps repair the car that had a busted up tire and a busted up window, she looks at him, and he's holding a hammer, and he's got long blonde hair, and he's wearing a red hat and a blue tank top, and she immediately thinks, that's Thor. It's really him. It's the real Thor. And so they played on that within the movie just to satisfy her imagination.
Man, I love seeing the different versions of Thor in different media. Did you ever see the show The Almighty Johnsons?
Heard of it. I know of it, but I have yet to see it.
So just for people that don't know, it's an Australian show about the reincarnation of the Norse gods and how they're living in modern day Australia with like toned, watered down powers. Mm-hmm. But Thor is just like this angry farmer that just like has like this like little like farming like fencing hammer, and he's just this fat angry farmer. And I love seeing like the different versions. And speaking of fat Thor, then there's the Avengers Endgame. But
the bro Thor, as he's sometimes referred to. Yeah, the dad bod Thor. Yeah.
I like how even though like culture and history was changed forever over the course of 5 years, after like losing half the universe, and somehow Fortnite still is mainstream enough to have Thor's attention, like because he walks in there and he's playing Fortnite with Meek.
Mm-hmm. Yep, a lot of fun moments with the character of Thor, whether it be within the MCU or maybe a few moments with perhaps outside of the MCU. But outside of all that stuff, when did you decide to become a comic book writer? When did it hit you? When was your aha moment?
I know exactly when. So I'm a huge fan of this musician named Max Bemis. He's the frontman for the band Say Anything. And I was always reading comics my whole life, but I was obsessively listening to his music during like during my high school years. And then one day he released a comic called Polarity, which is about a bipolar superhero who only has powers when he's being manic.
Mm-hmm.
And I really loved it. And despite him being like a celebrity that I idolized, like I definitely felt like a connection, like that he was just like a regular human because of his music. So when I saw that he made comics, I was like, wow, like real people are behind these comics, and like real people make them, and I could make them too. So that's kind of what made me want to start writing my own comics.
Wow, that is really cool. What would you say are some of the rewards of being a comic book writer?
Well, I think you get to see your stories come to life in a lot quicker way than you would in a lot of other mediums. Also, I feel like I feel like the world gives comic book artists enough credit, but writers in the indie industry don't give their artists enough credit. And one of the rewards for me is I feel very fortunate to work with some amazing artists, and really have that collaboration make a story that always exceeds your own vision because you have someone else's vision in it too. And that's very, very rewarding. And I also like how, unlike film or TV, no way I tell a story unless it impacts the length of the story. There's no way I can tell a story that makes it more expensive. Like it doesn't increase the CGI budget or anything, so you can really go crazy with these stories. And then from a storytelling aspect, you can really try, because comics can be quicker to make than other things, and you can really try out weird and interesting things that you probably wouldn't be able to try out in other mediums. A lot of the craziest stories in film and television nowadays come from comic books. So comic books are just super rewarding from a storytelling perspective, from a budget perspective, and just from a timeline perspective, like a timeline of creation.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And on the other side of that, what would you say are some of the challenges of being a comic book writer?
Well, let's see. Because it's kind of like a low budget type of thing. Like me and my artist who lives in Turkey, we're not flying out to meet each other, so we've actually never met each other in person. And we've made quite a few comics together, and so the challenges are having to work remotely a lot, and also I work with a lot of artists from overseas. So I'm working with a lot of artists where English is their second language, and I don't have a second language at all because I'm a stupid American. but they so sometimes it's a language barrier, and also as a writer, you have to learn to use the time between panels to tell the story too. There's a lot of implicit storytelling when it comes to comic book stories. And also, I like to always challenge myself and make sure my comics are always. Every series I make is like perfect to be someone's first comic ever. Because a lot of, even in the indie industry, a lot of people are coming out with like issue zeros or a comic is a spinoff of another series or whatever. Or like in Marvel and DC, like every series is that issue 400, and it's just like it's really overwhelming to newcomers. And so I like to make like condensed stories that are self-contained and perfect for anyone to pick up and doesn't do too much craziness with the comic book format, because I don't want to like confuse newcomers to comics.
Absolutely, and I agree with that wholeheartedly. Now, if you have any questions for Conner, feel free to leave them in the comment section. We're going to get to those a little bit later on in the show. And you make a good point here, Conner. I go into my local comic shops and I see all these comics, and I see a couple of number ones and then annual number ones, and then they do a series, they do a run for certain characters and certain properties, and a few months later, you're all the way back to number one, and I'm thinking, why just keep the story going and keep them, numbered in a certain way that it doesn't confuse perhaps your audience? If a new comic book reader wants to come in and read the new series, they should be able to read issues 1 to however many issues there are, and not have to worry about, oh, it got rebooted again, so now I have to go and read that series and find out what happened with those particular characters in that particular situation. You know what I mean?
Or you have to Google, like, where's a good jumping off point? Oh, well, Spider-Man has a soft reboot at issue 300, so that's a good jumping out. It's like,
yeah, to a certain extent, it can be confusing, maybe a little bit overwhelming for new comic book readers and new audiences. That is for sure. Now, my next question for you is, do you have any special memories from being at conventions or other events for some of the comics and projects that you've promoted in the past?
I was fortunate enough to be part of Alaska Comic Con, or Alaska Arctic Comic Con, and I really that was Alaska's first Comic Con, and it was really cool being a part of that little bit of historic event. Getting to meet other local creators for the first time was really exciting. I think but a lot of the memories from conventions come from like a lot of the cool cosplay I saw. Here in Anchorage, throughout every event, there's this dude with this decked out rainbow dragon costume that just shows up to every event, and so it's fun to see him every year at every event. And I really enjoy this. Parents were psychos from Borderlands, and they made their kid a little claptrap, and that was a lot of fun. And just cool cosplay moments. I forgot his name because I'm an asshole, but the writer from Gotham by Gaslight came by and bought my comic, and I didn't even know who he was until someone told me after he walked away. So that was pretty cool. Yeah, lot of cool. The guy that does the Marvel Zombies cover, he's a kickboxing instructor. He comes to Alaska and talks about and does. Excuse me. He comes to Alaska for Arctic Comic Con for Marvel Zombies, and me and him talk about kickboxing a lot, and so I always enjoy doing that. So yeah, a lot of fun moments like that. I got to meet Flash Gordon in the bathroom. That was. He kept looking at me like he was expecting me to say hi to him. And I was like, man, Flash Gordon's only all right.
I gotcha. Wow, some good memories there. Now, when Earth reopens and we can eventually go back to being normal, everyday people, and conventions open their doors, and we can celebrate nerdom with our fellow geeks and our fellow nerds and go back to cosplaying, all this great stuff that we all miss and that we all love to enjoy, What are some people that you want to meet, whether they're comic writers, artists, or just celebrities in general? Who are some people you want to meet once Earth reopens?
Like, am I just naming any celebrity, or am I thinking celebrities that like my small time Comic Con might actually be able to get?
It could be anybody. It could be someone who's a really big name. It could be someone who's maybe not as well known. It could be anybody. It's up to you.
Okay. Let's see. Well, oh wait, he's dead. Oh man, this is challenging because if it could be anyone, I'd really like to meet Bruce Campbell. We were talking about Evil Dead earlier. I'd really, really, really like to meet Bruce Campbell, and while we're at it, Sam Raimi. That would be really great. He's always seemed to be like a really fun person to meet. Fine. While we're at it, Max Bemis. Yes, I would love it. I probably wouldn't. I would love to meet him, but I probably shouldn't.
Okay, that's a bit of a switch there.
Just because like I don't even know if I'd be able to talk.
It might perhaps be a little overwhelming.
Yeah, for sure.
Overwhelming. Okay.
Yeah. I'd love to meet Kevin Feige, the producer of the MCU.
Who wouldn't?
Yeah.
I mean, who wouldn't want to pick that guy's brain for 5 or 10 minutes just to say, hey, you're doing a great job, or do you think you can incorporate this character into this person's movie or upcoming series on Disney Plus so you can satisfy some of the comic book nerds out there? Absolutely
best performance review in Hollywood that guy would get. I'm saying. Like, also just because he's so freaking weird, I'd love to meet Tom Cruise.
Maverick, anyone? Yeah.
If we can pick anyone, I love it. I love his work ethic. I love how he does his own stunts and how
he's pushing 60.
Yeah, and I love how he does business on his movies, and he seems to treat other people well. I know he's weird, but I love it. Oh, weird! I would love to meet Nicolas Cage. You got me going all day.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, maybe he can tell us some of the intricacies and details of how we stole the Declaration of Independence.
Actually, I would love for him to do like a dramatic reading of an Edgar Allan Poe poem or short story, because he does that, and it's amazing. It like he like goes all out, and it's yeah, that's what I would want him to do.
Maybe we can have him read The Raven.
Yeah, well, he read the. You should look it up on YouTube. He read The Telltale Heart, and that was made. He did that like at Edgar Allan Poe Film Festival. So if I could have a panel at a con, it'd be him doing that.
We can, you would have a panel, and we just call it the Nicolas Cage Hour.
Yeah.
I'm sure people would have a field day asking him questions during the Q&A portion of that panel. Forget it being an hour; it'd probably be 8 hours long.
I know. Just give him a whole day of the convention.
Or you could do that. Give him the whole day of the convention. Leave the what's it called? The panel room. Leave it to him.
Yeah.
He'll sell tickets, right?
Oh yeah.
I'm sure.
If not, just me buying them all up.
Yeah, I'm sure he would sell plenty of tickets. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, something I do want to bring up. I had the chance to sit down and I read 2 of the 3 issues of your most recent, I believe it's your most recent Kickstarter that wrapped up concerning Swords and Solace. Now, Swords and Solace, I want to know more about this. Tell everyone out there about Swords and Solace. What's the story? Where's it going? What has been going on with it as of late?
So we just concluded the Kickstarter for the last book, the 3rd book, and we're about to start working on an Indiegogo because it's going to be a little while till the comic book finishes, and so while the artist is working on that, and I figured to bring it to a new audience on Indiegogo. The latest Kickstarter just ended, and it was our 6th Kickstarter that we've done, that me and the artist have done together, and Swords and Solace Trilogy is a black and white comic. It's a character study about a tortured Ronin assassin named Rat, and it's heavily inspired by Akira Kurosawa films, and it has lots of action, but it's a real like deep dive into the character of Rat, and and how he reconciles his violent actions with his more peaceful mind, and I kind of describe it as a John Wick meets Samurai Jack. So
Not a bad combination, if I do say so myself. Especially when you mentioned John Wick, as big John Wick fan over here.
Yeah, it's a lot like John Wick in the sense that it's like an assassin's guild is hunting down a singular assassin.
Mm-hmm.
And also like there's a hint to like a larger, more complicated world, you know, surrounding this focus on one character, you know. So like John Wick series completely focuses on one character, but you feel like there's like a vast, complicated world of assassins around him, and that's kind of what I was trying to channel a little bit there in this series.
Favorite Akira Kurosawa film?
I mean, classic Seven Samurai. The Akira Kurosawa inspiration really comes from the artist Adigan. He really, the way Kurosawa composes shots and how he uses elevation in his action scenes to display emotion. Adigan really took a lot of inspiration on that. Nice wide shots that display the action really clearly and well, and with like a heavy emphasis on a beautiful scenery in the background. So those are some of the ways that Adigan was inspired by Kurosawa.
Wow. That is truly amazing. Congratulations to you and your team on your most recent successful Kickstarter campaign concerning the trilogy of Swords and Solace and so on and so forth. Look forward to seeing what you do in the future. Now, if you were stranded on a desert island and you could choose one person to keep you company, who would it be?
Oh man, let's see. What one person and are they have to be alive right now?
It could be anybody. You can play with this as much as you want. It could be someone who's with you. It could be someone who's already passed on, but you could bring him back. Who knows?
Let's see. I would probably make it back to Nicolas Cage. Now hear me out. We know he's a very animated man, and he's very exciting and has lots of stories,
lots of energy.
And we also know that being alone with him for an extended period of time could drive you insane.
Yes.
But being on a desert island, you're going to be going insane anyway. If you learn to embrace it with Nicolas Cage, I think there could be a nice delusional happiness going on.
Oh, and a follow-up to that. What's your favorite Nicolas Cage movie?
Ooh, okay. Let's see. Man, that's a hard one.
There's some good ones out there.
Because it depends on like how you ask me, like best Nicolas Cage performance or most watchable, recommendable movie, because there's a love of Nicolas Cage where that like a lot of people don't understand. And so if I was going to recommend a movie to them, I'd recommend like something nice and palpable like National Treasure. Right?
Yeah, it's a good pick.
But I'm someone that loves to see the man just ham it up and just go insane. Right? Mm-hmm. So I would like The Wicker Man or Ghost Rider. The second one is a better movie, but the first one has a better Nicolas Cage performance.
That's a valid point. I've seen both. I remember enjoying the first one, not so much enjoying the second one. But yeah, the first one has its moments. And plus, when you got Eva Mendes as a love interest in your movie, that's not too shabby either.
The reason why I think the second one's a better movie is because you're not going to either of them for like a strong story, but the second one has way better action and way better effects.
Yeah, that's true. I could give you that. And also with being stranded on a desert island, so you have the person in Nick Cage. Now, what about one animal keeping you company on this desert island? What would you pick?
Well, I mean, the reason why I didn't pick my girlfriend in the last question is because that's like a boring answer that no one watching this knows my girlfriend. And so I can't pick my wonderful dog, Luna, for this one. So, like, a real life animal and not like a fictional animal. And I would go Bubbles, Michael Jackson's monkey. He's still alive.
There you go.
I love monkeys, and he's already been trained by the best. So hopefully he won't turn violent all of a sudden. And that'd be like, and monkeys are so smart. That'd be like having another person.
Yeah, that's.
And I feel like Nicolas Cage and Bubbles would have a lot in common. And I feel like, you know, we would make a good like sitcom style trio.
Okay. All right. There you go. It's interesting combination there. We'll see how, you know, in this sort of situation, we'll see how that plays out. Now, how much would someone have to pay for your little toe?
For my little toe?
Yeah, the little toe. Yeah.
For the left one or the right one?
It doesn't matter. You can pick one.
It does matter.
Okay, well let's go with the left toe for argument's sake.
Okay. So there's a 50% markup on the left toe. And so I'd have to say it would definitely affect my balance. So I would need something to where I wouldn't have to work for a while. So I'd say at least $500,000. Is it a painless procedure?
Maybe. I'm not sure. I don't have all the details there. The only thing I'm just straight up asking is how much would they have to pay for it?
If it's a painless procedure, $500,000. If it's a painful procedure, $1 million.
There you go. Enough said. The numbers are set, so it's up to you. It's up to you out there. I'm just kidding. Now, would you say, is a hot dog a sandwich, and why?
I do think a hot dog is a sandwich, and thank you for asking this question. Because what would you call meat between buns? Right?
You probably respectfully would call it a sandwich, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing about the shape that disqualifies it. Subway makes sandwiches. Hoagies are long sandwiches. You know what I mean? If you cut a hot dog up and put it on a bun and cover it up, you almost wouldn't even think it was a hot dog. You know what I mean? Like it would be a sandwich. Now, I think the more important question here is, if a grilled cheese has meat on it, is it still a grilled cheese or is it a melt?
Ooh. I mean, for me anyway, I would say it's more so of a melt.
Thank you. Yes. That's the right answer.
Because me, and I'm sure a lot of other individuals out there, I grew up eating grilled cheese sandwiches as a kid. So to me, a grilled cheese sandwich is a grilled cheese sandwich. You put something else in there, like we were talking about a moment ago, to me, that would be a melt more so than a sandwich.
Exactly. And like, I think, you know, in everyday discussion, it's okay to mix up the distinction. But I think if you're telling me like, I make the best grilled cheese sandwich ever, you're stepping into the line. You're stepping out of the grilled cheese industry the second you put some meat on it. Bacon, maybe. If it's bacon, okay. I can understand unless you're putting like 4 strips of bacon on it. 2 strips of bacon, I can almost still let you call it a grilled cheese. But if you're putting sliced ham or sliced turkey on there, it's a melt, and you're fooling yourself.
It's a valid point. Outside of grilled cheese sandwiches, if you had to have a particular sandwich, any kind of sandwich to eat every day for the rest of your life, what sandwich would you want to have?
All right. I would want a sandwich with so much stuff on it that every day I can take different things off and almost make a different sandwich.
Okay.
Every day.
A little bit of creativity
So,
there. Are you taking a page out of Shaggy from Scooby-Doo's playbook?
yes, I got my Shaggy shirt on under my sweater.
Ah.
The reason why I'm wearing the sweater is because with my shaggy hair and this green shirt, I didn't want any mean people calling me Shaggy in the comments.
Oh. No. I'm sure. I'm almost certain they would not do that. But hey, always good to meet a fellow Scooby-Doo fan.
Oh yeah, I grew up watching that. I love it.
Yeah, a friend of mine and I went to a convention last year. He cosplayed. It was his first convention. He cosplayed as Shaggy. He was wearing brown pants, green shirt, shaggy hair, the whole nine. He had a wonderful time. He enjoyed the heck out of it. Now, as far as Scooby-Doo memories are concerned, I grew up watching Scooby-Doo and the Reluctant Werewolf. Do you remember that one?
The Reluctant Werewolf.
Yes, when Shaggy accidentally gets turned into a werewolf and Dracula and all his monsters are like running the show, and then they have him run a drag race.
Yeah, I remember, and I remember what Shaggy looked like as a werewolf.
Yeah, like he was attracted to somebody, and then he was trying to like make his move and stuff. But then what was his name? Dracula like interfered and like turned him into a werewolf because he wanted him to be a servant or something like that. Yeah. Does anyone else remember that in the comments? Scooby-Doo and the Reluctant Werewolf. That's one of the memories of Scooby-Doo that stand out for me the most. I don't know about the rest of you, but that's one that stands out for me.
The one that stands out for me, I feel like, is the one where Scooby-Doo finds out that his uncle died, and so like he inherited his estate. I think, man, there's so many different ones like of Spooky Island and stuff like that I can't remember the specific names, but yeah, there's one where Scooby's rich uncle died and then he inherited his estate.
Wow, that is one episode or storyline I don't
And they had
remember,
to stay
or perhaps I haven't seen it before. Period.
And they had to stay inside of this like haunted estate for the night if you was to keep it.
Of course, it's haunted. Why wouldn't it be? It wouldn't be Scooby-Doo without haunting beings or ghosts or ghouls or any kind of potentially scary creatures that go bump in the night. Now, as far as the TV series is concerned, were you a fan of Scrappy-Doo or not? Because Scrappy-Doo for me was just annoying.
I like to like I understand like this full like Jar Jar Binks style hatred for Scrappy-Doo. Like the thing about that to me is that like I feel like because of that hatred, it skewed what episodes get re-aired. And so to me, like he's almost like not even that much of a fixture in Scooby-Doo. You know, like I feel like when he was there, like the times that episodes came on that he was on was like not that common, that like he was something new and like I could put up with for an episode. But like, yeah, I was never excited for a Scrappy-Doo episode. I think Scrappy-Doo started coming in like near the end of the series, and those just like don't seem to get syndicated as much, or don't seem to get reran as much as like the earlier Masterpiece episodes.
Well, that's very true. That's very true. Yeah, Scrappy-Doo episodes or whenever he was featured on screen just didn't really do much for me. Do you remember Scooby-Doo meets Batman?
No, I don't.
Oh wow, that was a good. I think it was a 2-3 part episode where the team, the Mystery Machine crew, teamed up with Batman and Robin, and they went up against the Penguin and the Joker.
I remember Scooby-Doo teamed up with Kiss.
Really, that actually happened.
Yeah.
Scooby-Doo and Kiss. That is not something I could ever see happening, but apparently it did.
Yeah. Also, did you even if you're not a fan of Supernatural, you should watch the Scooby-Doo Supernatural crossover episode.
I've heard good things about that. I did watch the early seasons of Supernatural, and then when the creator was finished with his 5-year plan, I kind of jumped off the wagon after season 6 or 7. I thought, You know what? I'm done with this. The story's played out. The creator did his thing. I'm going to move on to something else. But Supernatural ran for 15 years, so clearly it has its fans.
Yeah, I mean, I love the characters, you know what I mean? So like I struggle along with it when I find time to watch it nowadays. But I mean I am like I did watch like up to season like 13 or 14. But if you know the characters, like that's even better. That's all you need to watch the Scooby Doo crossover. You know Sam and Dean, and that's all you need.
That's true. I potentially one of these days I'm going to give that episode a chance because I may not be as big of a Supernatural fan as I used to be, but I'm willing to give the episode a shot. We'll see where it goes down the line. Now to turn things over to our comment section because this thing has been lighting up like crazy. Caleb H says, "There we go about Bendis. Got to come up when it comes to talking about comic artists. Brian Michael Bendis is one you should definitely mention." Caleb goes on to say, "Yes, Spawn was the you know what back in the day."
Yeah.
And then Caleb goes on to say, "Hunky Thor bringing stepmoms to the MCU for over 10 years. Way to go." Oh my goodness. And then we were talking about one of your shows earlier. He says, "Yeah, the Almighty Johnsons was pretty great," according to Caleb H. Thank you for joining us, Caleb. Do appreciate it. Good stuff there. Let's see. We were talking about turning storylines over or switching things up in comics. Caleb H. goes on to say, "Interesting. Like you said, you can't go too big for your budget within comics. So have you ever gone too big, or what was the furthest or craziest thing that you've done to test that theory?"
Well, I always tell people like when they start off in comics, they should start with like a one shot or like a short story for an anthology. But I didn't do that. My first comic was a 6-issue miniseries. So instead of doing a one shot, we did 6 of them. And so I guess you could say it's too big there. The interesting thing about that is that the story itself doesn't seem like it would be it's a very fast-paced story, but I find that like nowadays I tell much more satisfying stories in a shorter amount of time. And even I don't quite know how I reconcile the two facts that yes, that series is fast-paced and condensed with plot, but for some reason I feel like nowadays like I just tell much more satisfying stories with half the amount of pages. So yeah, I went too big on my first series. There's like that we ended up collecting it into like a 200-page graphic novel for our first 3 Kickstarters. So yeah, I guess I went too big there. There's other times where on short stories I kind of went a little far with like you want to set up promises in the beginning of a story, and even when it's a short story. And so like I was trying to be subtle with like hinting at some of the more dark themes in this one short story, and then like once they got to the end, like it surprised, like this like dark event kind of surprised people, and so I guess you could say I've gone too far there. There's a gory moment in Grimwood also that my first miniseries near the end where I've had a review say that like they didn't expect me to go that far and that I didn't have to. So there's times where I've definitely gone like too big and push things too far.
There you go. We were talking about the character of Batman earlier on. Caleb says Brian Augustine wrote the story Gotham by Gaslight, so that's the name we were trying to come up with. Couldn't think of it earlier on.
I knew it was Brian something, but I didn't like between Brian K. Vaughan and Brian Michael Bendis. I knew I was about to mention another Brian, but I couldn't remember his last name. So thank you.
Yeah, there you go. And Caleb goes on to say, if I had the chance to meet Tom Cruise, I would ask him questions about the fantasy adventure film known as Legend from the 1980s, which was directed by Ridley Scott. Fun fact.
I have not seen that movie.
I actually just saw that movie for the first time several months ago. I thought it was all right. Visually, it looks really good. It tells a simple story, so there's really not too many layers to it, but it's fine for what it is, and it has an accomplished cast with Tom Cruise, Mia Sara from Ferris Bueller's Day Off, and you also have Tim Curry as the evil one, the enemy, the antagonist, And you can never go wrong with Tim Curry in any form of media, whether it's film or television, doesn't matter.
Oh, yeah.
Which is very true. Caleb Hansen goes on to say, blank, son, that's all you had to say. John Wick meets Samurai Jack. Shut up and take my money now.
Well, we're going to have an Indiegogo here soon, so you can jump on that one.
Now, Caleb asks, did you originally go for a Samurai Jack art style going into this?
Well, I wouldn't say it's a Samurai Jack art style. I'd say it's more of like a Samurai Jack type plot. It's like a very like detailed Japanese samurai style in art. It's Samurai Jack in plot style because it's about like a wandering ronin, right? It's about a wandering swordsman looking for his place. Now in Samurai Jack, he's literally looking for his place in time. He's looking for a way to get back, and along the way he keeps coming across these like new and different enemies, and that's the structure, minus the time travel shenanigans. That's the structure that the Swords and Solace trilogy takes. He has to fight for his freedom in the first one, and he wins, but that's not something you're supposed to win. So the guild sends more assassins after him to keep him from being free. And so he's wandering across this land trying to put distance between him and the Assassins Guild, and finding that like you really can't, and he's coming across new and interesting assassins along the way.
Oh, there you go. And Caleb Hansen jokingly, I'm assuming he's jokingly saying, I'm announcing a Kickstarter to get that toe.
Oh yeah, $1 million. I can make so many comics with $1 million. Well, no, I'd rather it be painless and go for 500,000. But I can still make so many comics with $500,000.
There you go. Caleb Hansen asks, bacon bits, still a grilled cheese. Bacon strips, it's certainly a melt. Nothing else.
I respect the distinction.
There you go. And he also says, Caleb says, I'm assuming so, a Dagwood sandwich. Is that what he's saying? Gee whiz. That's an odd name for a sandwich. Let's see. Caleb says, Shaggy stole the shtick from Dagwood from the Blondie comics. Oh my goodness. I was not aware of this, Caleb.
How old is the Blondie comics?
That's a good question. Anyone else know the answer? Does anyone know the answer to that? Because now I'm curious. You got me curious. That'll be something else. Why am I saying this? Let's see. This must be late stage Scooby-Doo. I don't remember any of this. You young whippersnappers. Oh, thanks for making us feel young, if not more dated.
And there's like 3 different Scooby-Doo series that all went for like a long time.
Yeah, and unfortunately,
at least by the time I was a kid, there's probably more now.
Yeah, and unfortunately, I think Caleb Hansen is in the minority on this. He says, I just got to be the one person. I like Scrappy-Doo on the show. Sorry, Caleb, you may be in the minority there, pal.
You could put up with him. I was able to put up with him. It was never very exciting to see him.
Fair point, but we'll leave that up to the rest of our audience members. But we want to take this opportunity to thank Conner Bartel for joining us here on this episode of And I Quote. Before we go, Conner, what projects do you have coming up, and where can everyone find you on social media?
Well, right now I'm focused on working on or finishing up Swords and Solace and getting it out to more people. So we have an Indiegogo coming up mid-March. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Conner_Bartel. You can also find my link tree at /Conner Bartel, and you can find all kinds of my links to my comics and Kickstarters and stuff from there.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much, Conner, for being with us. Once again, my name is Ryan of Nerd Culture. Thank you for joining us for this episode of And I Quote. And if you're wondering where some of those questions about is a hot dog a sandwich, who would you want to have with you on a deserted island, I'll tell you where those questions came from. This episode of And I Quote is powered by Poddex. Poddex are the hottest new tool for podcasters looking to have more meaningful conversations or gamify their podcast. You simply shuffle them up, you ask a question, and just let the comments roll. Get yours today at poddex.com. Make sure you use the promo code NERDCULTURE. It's all one word at checkout. You will get 10% off your order. You're not going to want to miss out on that. In the meantime, you can follow me and everything that we're doing here on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at It's Nerd Culture. Our YouTube channel is dropping new videos each and every week. We appreciate for those of you who have liked, commented, subscribed, and we look forward to having even more great entertaining content throughout the course of this year and beyond. So don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, do all that stuff. And in the meantime, support local comic book shops, support your local artists, support local content creators, and read comics. Have a good weekend, everyone.